The richest man in the world sat crying on his office floor at 1:20 a.m., broken by the innocent words of a 4-year-old boy who loved him more than Mars itself. Just minutes earlier, Elon Musk had everything. Tesla, SpaceX, the dream of making humans a multiplanetary species. But he was about to lose it all. His company's failing, his board turning against him, his vision crumbling under the weight of impossible expectations. Then his smart speakers crackled to life with a sound that would change everything. His son, Saxon's bedtime prayer, asking God not for toys or treats, but for Daddy to remember how to smile again. What Saxon didn't know was that he was hiding a secret that would soon test every lesson about love, courage, and what truly matters when everything else falls apart. This is the story of how a child's prayer shattered a broken man's walls and rebuilt them into something unbreakable, just in time for the fight of their lives. December 15th, 2024, Austin, Texas. The coffee in Elon Musk's cup had gone cold hours ago, but he kept drinking it anyway. His hands shook as he lifted the white, ceramic mug to his lips. The bitter taste matched his mood perfectly. Outside his home office windows, the lights of Austin twinkled like tiny stars. It was almost midnight, but Elon couldn't sleep. He hadn't slept well in weeks. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw red numbers, falling stock prices, failed rocket launches, angry board members. His massive oak desk was covered with papers, tablets, and 3 different laptops. Each screen showed bad news. Tesla's stock had dropped 40% this quarter. The Chinese electric car companies were winning. BYD and NIO were selling more cars than Tesla in Europe. The numbers hurt to look at. On the middle screen, a news headline flashed. Musk's empire crumbling? Tesla loses market share as SpaceX faces setbacks. Elon's stomach twisted into knots. He had built Tesla from nothing. When everyone said electric cars would never work, he proved them wrong. Now it felt like everything was falling apart. His phone buzzed on the desk. Another text message from a reporter. Another request for a comment about the company's problems. Elon turned the phone face down. He was tired of explaining himself to people who didn't understand his vision. Through the office's glass door, he could hear soft sounds from the living room. Saxon was still awake, playing with his toy rockets on the carpet. The 4-year-old had come to stay with Elon for the weekend. Shared custody meant Saxon lived with his mother Shervon Zeles most of the time, but weekends belonged to Daddy. Usually, Elon loved having Saxon visit. They would build things together, watch movies about space, and talk about rockets. But this weekend felt different. Elon couldn't focus on anything except work problems. Saxon's high voice drifted through the door. 3, 2, 1, blast off. The little boy was making rocket sounds as he played. Whoosh. We're going to Mars, Mr. Rocket. Elon smiled for the first time all day. Saxon never got tired of playing Space Explorer. The boy dreamed of visiting Mars just like his daddy. But right now, Mars felt impossible. Everything felt impossible. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Claire, his personal assistant, peered around the door. Her face looked worried. Mr. Musk? The Tesla board meeting starts in 10 minutes. They moved it up because of the quarterly reports. Elon's heart started beating faster. He knew what this emergency meeting meant. The board members were scared. When board members got scared, they made changes. Big changes. They're calling it an urgent discussion about leadership direction, Claire added quietly. Those words hit Elon like a punch in the stomach. Leadership direction. That was fancy talk for maybe we need a new CEO. Elon had started Tesla in 2003 with a simple dream. Make electric cars that people actually wanted to drive. For 21 years, he had poured his heart into that company. He had slept on the factory floor when production was behind schedule. He had bet everything he owned on making electric cars mainstream. Now the board wanted to discuss his leadership. His leadership had made Tesla the most valuable car company in the world. His leadership had changed how people thought about electric vehicles. But the stock price didn't lie. The numbers didn't care about his feelings. Tell them I'll be there in 5 minutes, Elon said. His voice sounded smaller than he wanted it to. Claire nodded and closed the door softly. Elon was alone again with his glowing screens and cold coffee. He looked at a framed photo on his desk. It showed him and Saxon at the SpaceX facility in Hawthorne, California. Both of them wore matching Occupy Mars t-shirts. Saxon sat on Elon's shoulders, pointing at a Falcon 9 rocket. Both of them were laughing. That had been 6 months ago, back when everything seemed possible, back when Elon felt like he could conquer the world and Mars too. Now he wasn't sure he could conquer his own problems. Elon opened his laptop to join the video call. 12 faces appeared on his screen. Board members from around the world, all looking serious. Some of them had helped build Tesla into what it was today. Others were new faces who only cared about quarterly profits. James Chin spoke first. He was Tesla's lead independent director, a man with gray hair and serious eyes. Elon, we need to have an honest conversation about the company's direction. Elon's hands gripped the edge of his desk. I'm listening. The stock is down 40% this quarter, said Sarah Williams, another board member. Investors are losing confidence. We're getting calls every day from people who want to sell their shares. And the SpaceX situation isn't helping, added Robert Martinez. 3 failed Starship launches in a row. NASA is reconsidering the Mars mission contract. That's $3 billion at risk. Each criticism felt like a knife in Elon's chest. He had given everything to these companies. 18-hour workdays, missed family dinners, sacrificed relationships, all to build something bigger than himself. We're going through a rough patch, Elon said, trying to keep his voice steady. But Tesla has bounced back before. We always do. Remember 2018? Everyone said we were finished then too. Board member Diana Foster shook her head. She was new to the board, brought in by investors who wanted fresh perspectives. Elon didn't trust her. This is different, Elon. The competition has caught up. Chinese companies are building better batteries for less money. European car makers are launching electric models that consumers love. We're not the only game in town anymore. So what are you suggesting? Elon asked, though he already knew the answer. The board members looked at each other. James Chin cleared his throat. We think it might be time for you to step back from daily operations. Focus on the big picture stuff. Innovation. Vision. Let someone else handle the business side. The words hung in the air like smoke. Step back. That was a nice way of saying, we don't trust you to run the company anymore. You want to vote me out? Elon said quietly. We want to help the company succeed, Sarah Williams replied. Sometimes that means making hard choices. Elon felt something cold spread through his chest. These people didn't understand what Tesla meant to him. It wasn't just a company. It was his life's work, his contribution to saving the planet. Give me 6 months, Elon said. I can turn this around. I've done it before. The board members whispered among themselves. Elon waited, watching their faces through the computer screen. These people held his future in their hands. Finally, James Chin spoke. We'll take a preliminary vote tonight. This isn't final, but it will show where we stand. The vote was quick and brutal. 8 board members wanted Elon to step back from daily operations. Only 4 supported keeping him in full control. It wasn't enough votes to remove him completely, but it was a clear warning. We'll meet again next week to discuss details, James Chin said. Think about what's best for Tesla, Elon. Think about what's best for everyone. The video call ended. 12 faces disappeared, leaving Elon alone with his reflection in the dark computer screen that he sat in silence for a long time. Outside his window, Austin continued living its normal life. People were probably having dinner with their families, watching movies, tucking their kids into bed. Normal people with normal problems. Elon's phone buzzed with a text from his brother Kimball. Saw the news about the board meeting. You okay, brother? Elon stared at the message but didn't reply. How could he explain that the man who wanted to save humanity felt like he couldn't save his own companies? He thought about his father, Errol, back in South Africa. Growing up, Errol had always told Elon he would never amount to anything important. You're just a dreamer, boy, his father used to say during dinner. Dreamers don't change the world. They just waste time chasing impossible things. Maybe his father was right. Maybe wanting to put humans on Mars was just an impossible dream. Maybe building the perfect electric car was too hard. Maybe he was just a dreamer who had gotten lucky for a while. From the living room, Saxon's voice drifted through the door again. Daddy's rockets are the best rockets in the whole universe. Elon closed his eyes. His son still believed in him, even when board members voted against him, even when stock prices fell, even when the whole world seemed to doubt what he was doing. But Saxon was only 4 years old. What did he know about the real world? What did he understand about competition and market share and quarterly profits? Elon picked up his cold coffee and took another sip. Tomorrow, he would have to figure out how to save his companies. Tonight, he just wanted to disappear. He didn't know that upstairs, Saxon was about to do something that would change everything. He didn't know that his son was kneeling beside his bed in Spider-Man pajamas, folding his small hands together. He didn't know that in just a few minutes, he would hear words that would break his heart and heal it at the same time. The smart speakers throughout the house were about to deliver the most important message of Elon Musk's life. Same night, 12:47 a.m. Elon pushed back from his desk and walked to the tall windows that looked out over Austin. The city sparkled below him like a computer circuit board. Millions of people down there living their lives, going to jobs they probably didn't love, worrying about paying bills and fixing their cars. At least their problems were simple. His reflection stared back at him from the glass. Dark circles under his eyes, hair messy from running his hands through it during the board meeting. When had he started looking so tired? When had the fun disappeared from building rockets and cars? Behind him, the computer screens still glowed with bad news. Stock charts that looked like ski slopes going down. News articles with headlines that made his stomach hurt. Social media posts from people who used to believe in Tesla but now questioned everything. Elon had always known that being a CEO meant dealing with problems. But this felt different. This felt personal, like the whole world had decided he wasn't good enough anymore. His phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Grimes, the mother of his son Xaexi. Saw the news. The kids are asking why people are being mean to daddy on TV. Even his children were hearing about his failures. Xaexi was only 4, but he was smart enough to understand when grown-ups were upset. How do you explain to a 4-year-old that sometimes dreams don't come true? How do you tell your kid that even daddies can fail? Elon typed back, "Tell him daddy is working hard to fix things. Everything will be okay." But as he sent the message, he wondered if he was lying. Would everything be okay? Or was this the beginning of the end? He walked over to a bookshelf filled with books about space and engineering. One book caught his eye, The Case for Mars by Robert Zubrin. Elon had read it dozens of times. It was the book that first made him believe humans could live on Mars. Back then, the idea had seemed so clear. Earth needed a backup plan. Climate change was real. Wars happened. Asteroids could hit the planet. Humans needed to become a multi-planetary species to survive. But now that dream felt heavier than ever. Maybe the board members were right. Maybe he was trying to do too much. Maybe focusing on Mars was a waste of time when Tesla was struggling here on Earth. From upstairs, he heard water running. Saxon was probably brushing his teeth before bed. The sound made Elon smile a little. Normal kid stuff. Bedtime routines that had nothing to do with stock prices or rocket launches. Elon thought about going upstairs to say goodnight. Saxon always wanted one more story, one more hug, one more minute with daddy. Usually Elon enjoyed those moments. But tonight, he felt too broken to pretend everything was fine. What kind of father brings his work stress home? What kind of dad sits in his office having breakdowns while his son plays alone in the living room? His laptop chimed with an email. The subject line made his heart sink. Urgent. NASA contract review meeting, tomorrow, 8 a.m. NASA wanted to discuss the Mars mission contract. The one worth $3 billion. The one that would fund SpaceX for the next 5 years. The one that made his Mars dreams possible. Elon opened the email and read the formal language that basically said, "We're worried about your recent failures. Prove to us that you can still deliver." 3 Starship explosions in 6 months. Each one had taught them something important about rocket design. Each failure had brought them closer to success. But NASA didn't see it that way. They saw 3 expensive mistakes. Maybe they were right. Maybe SpaceX was moving too fast, taking too many risks. Maybe the smart thing would be to slow down, play it safe, stick to missions they knew would work. But playing it safe had never gotten humans to the moon. Playing it safe had never created the first reusable rocket. Playing it safe was the enemy of progress. Elon's father had always played it safe. Elon Musk had worked normal jobs, lived a normal life, never tried to change the world. And he had spent Elon's childhood telling his son to do the same. Stop dreaming about impossible things. Errol used to say when young Elon talked about computers and rockets. Smart boys focus on realistic goals. You're not special enough to change the world. Those words had hurt back then. They still hurt now, especially on nights like this when everything felt impossible. Maybe his father had been trying to protect him. Maybe Errol knew that big dreams led to big failures. Maybe playing it safe would have saved Elon from nights like this one. But it also would have meant no Tesla, no SpaceX, no reusable rockets or electric cars that people actually wanted to drive. Playing it safe would have meant a smaller life. Elon's phone rang. The caller ID said Kimball Musk. His brother never gave up easily. "You didn't answer my text," Kimball said when Elon picked up. "I'm fine," Elon lied. "No, you're not. I can hear it in your voice. You sound like you did during the Model 3 production problems. Remember that time I found you sleeping in your office for 3 days straight?" Elon remembered. That had been one of the worst periods of his life. Tesla was trying to build 5,000 Model 3 cars per week, but everything kept going wrong. Workers were exhausted. Robots weren't working properly. The media was calling it production hell. But they had figured it out. They had hit their production targets. They had proved the doubters wrong. "This is different," Elon said. "Back then, it was just production problems. Now it feels like people have stopped believing in the mission." "What mission?" "All of it. Electric cars, sustainable energy, getting to Mars, making life multiplanetary. Everything I've been working toward for 20 years. Kimball was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that hit Elon like a truck. "Maybe the problem isn't that people stopped believing in the mission. Maybe the problem is that you forgot why the mission mattered in the first place." "What do you mean?" "Remember when we were kids in South Africa? You used to talk about electric cars because you wanted cleaner air for everyone to breathe. You talked about Mars because you thought it would inspire kids to love science. When did it become about stock prices and board meetings?" Elon didn't have a good answer. Somewhere along the way, the dreams had gotten tangled up with business pressures and investor expectations. The pure joy of building cool things had been buried under quarterly reports and market analysis. "I have to go," Elon said. "Saxon will want me to tuck him in." "Good," Kimball replied. "Spend time with your kids. They still believe in you, even when you don't believe in yourself." After hanging up, Elon sat in his office chair and spun around once, like he used to do when he was a kid. For just a second, he remembered what it felt like to dream without fear. Then reality crashed back in. Tomorrow's NASA meeting. Next week's board discussion. The weight of 10,000 Tesla employees depending on him for their jobs. The pressure of being responsible for humanity's future among the stars. How had one person ended up carrying so much weight? How had the kid who just wanted to build cool rockets become responsible for saving the world? Upstairs, he could hear Saxon's voice. Through the ceiling, the little boy was talking to himself as he got ready for bed. Something about rocket ships and adventures. At least one person in this house still believed in dreams. Elon closed his laptop and turned off the desk lamp. Maybe Kimball was right. Maybe he needed to remember why any of this mattered. Maybe he needed to see his work through the eyes of a 4-year-old who still thought anything was possible. As he walked toward the door, he noticed the smart speaker on his bookshelf. The little device that could hear everything in the house. Usually he turned it off at night, but tonight he had forgotten. He reached toward the power button, then stopped. Saxon's voice was drifting down from upstairs again. Something about his daddy and rockets. Elon left the speaker on and headed upstairs to say goodnight to his son. He had no idea that in just a few minutes, that smart speaker would change his life forever. He had no idea that Saxon was about to pray words that would reach every corner of the house. Words that would break down walls Elon had built around his heart. Words that would remind him what really mattered. Same night, 1:15 a.m. upstairs in his bedroom, Saxon Musk sat on his race car bed in Spider-Man pajamas. His room looked like a mini space center. Model rockets hung from the ceiling on fishing line. Posters of Mars covered the walls. His toy box overflowed with plastic spaceships and action figures of astronauts. On his nightstand sat a framed photo of him and Daddy at the SpaceX factory. Both of them wore matching Occupy Mars t-shirts. In the picture, Saxon was sitting on Daddy's shoulders, pointing at a big white rocket. Both of them had huge smiles. Saxon picked up the photo and looked at it closely. That had been the best day ever. Daddy had shown him real rockets that could fly to space. They had eaten ice cream in the cafeteria and talked about what it would be like to live on Mars. "Maybe kids like you will build the first houses there," Daddy had said. "Maybe you'll be the first kid born on Earth to visit Mars." Saxon had liked that idea. Living on Mars sounded cool. But lately, Daddy didn't talk about Mars anymore. He didn't talk about anything fun. He just stared at computer screens and made worried faces during phone calls. Saxon could hear Daddy downstairs right now, probably still looking at those screens. Sometimes at night, Saxon would sneak to the top of the stairs and listen. Daddy talked to people on the phone using big words that Saxon didn't understand. Words like quarterly and shareholders and market volatility. But Saxon did understand. The tone in Daddy's voice. It was the same tone Mommy used when she was really worried about something. The same tone his teacher used when a kid got hurt on the playground. Daddy was sad. Really, really sad. Saxon didn't know about Tesla's stock price or board meetings. He didn't understand why grown-ups got so upset about numbers on screens. But he knew his daddy was hurting, and that made Saxon's tummy feel funny that he thought about. Last weekend when Daddy came to pick him up at Mommy's house. Usually Daddy was excited and full of energy. They would play games in the car and sing songs about rockets. But last weekend, Daddy had been quiet during the drive. His smile looked fake, like he was trying too hard to be happy. "Are you okay, Daddy?" Saxon had asked from his car seat. "I'm fine, buddy," Daddy had answered. But his eyes looked different, tired and worried. Saxon was only 4, but he was a smart 4-year-old. He knew when grown-ups said, "I'm fine," but weren't really fine. Mommy did it sometimes when she missed her own daddy who lived far away. Grandma May did it when she talked about being lonely in New York. Now Daddy was doing it too. Saxon slipped out of bed and walked to his window. Down below, he could see the light from Daddy's office. Through the big glass doors, he could see Daddy sitting at his desk, holding his head in his hands. That's when Saxon decided to do something Grandma May had taught him. Something she said always helped when people were sad or scared or worried. Saxon walked back to his bed and knelt down beside it, just like Grandma had shown him. He folded his small hands together and closed his eyes tight. "Dear God," Saxon whispered in his tiny voice. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of his rocket-shaped night light. "It's me, Saxon. I need to talk to you about my daddy." Saxon paused, trying to think of the right words. Grown-up problems were hard to understand, but feelings were easy. "My daddy is really sad lately. I don't know why, but he doesn't smile anymore like he used to. He used to laugh when we played with rockets. He used to make funny voices when he read me stories. Now he just looks at his computer all the time." Saxon opened one eye to peek at the photo on his nightstand, then closed it again. "I think maybe people are being mean to him. Sometimes I hear him on the phone, and he sounds upset. I don't understand all the words, but I know when someone's feelings are hurt." The little boy's voice got softer, like he was sharing a secret. "I know my daddy wants to help people go to space. He told me that someday, kids like me might live on Mars and have space adventures. That sounds really cool. But I think Daddy forgot something important." Saxon shifted on his knees, getting more comfortable. "He forgot that I don't need him to take me to Mars to be the best daddy ever. I just want him to be happy here with me. When we play with my toy rockets, I pretend we're flying to space together. But really, my favorite part is just being with Daddy." A car drove by outside, its headlights sweeping across Saxon's wall. The little boy didn't notice. He was focused on his prayer. "God, I think my daddy works too hard. He wants to save the whole world, but maybe he doesn't know that he already saved my world just by being my daddy." Saxon thought about all the fun times they'd had together. Building blanket forts that they pretended were space stations. Making pancakes shaped like rockets on Saturday mornings. Reading books about astronauts before bedtime. "I love when Daddy tucks me in and tells me stories about brave space explorers. But lately, he seems too worried to tell stories. He forgets to do the funny voices. Sometimes he falls asleep in the chair next to my bed because he's so tired." The house was completely quiet now. Even the traffic outside had stopped. It was just Saxon and his prayer. "Please help my daddy remember that he's already my hero. Even if his rockets don't work sometimes. Even if people are mean to him on the internet. Even if those number things on his computer aren't the right numbers." Saxon's voice got even quieter, like he was afraid someone might hear. "I heard Daddy crying on the phone yesterday. He thought I was watching TV, but I could hear him in the kitchen. He was talking to Uncle Kimball, and his voice sounded all shaky. Daddies aren't supposed to cry, but I think sometimes they need to." The 4-year-old opened his eyes for a moment and looked around his room. All his space toys seemed to be listening too. "God, I know you're really busy taking care of everyone in the world. But could you maybe send Daddy a sign that everything will be okay? Could you help him remember that even if he never builds a rocket that goes to Mars, he's still the most important person in my whole life? Saxon took a deep breath and said the most important part of his prayer. And God, could you tell my daddy that I don't need him to be perfect? I just need him to be my daddy. Could you tell him that when he hugs me, it feels like the safest place in the universe? Better than any spaceship or rocket or Mars house. The little boy paused, thinking if there was anything else to say. Oh, and one more thing. Could you help Daddy sleep tonight? He needs to rest so tomorrow we can play rockets together. Real playing, not the worried kind of playing where his mind is somewhere else. Saxon opened his eyes and looked at the photo of him and Daddy one more time. Thank you for listening, God. I think you and Daddy would be good friends if you ever met. You both care about taking care of people. As Saxon climbed back into bed, he had no idea that his prayer had been heard by more than just God. Downstairs, hidden speakers throughout the house had picked up every word. The smart home system that Daddy had installed to control lights and music had been listening. And right now, those speakers were carrying Saxon's innocent, loving words to every room in the house, including Daddy's office. Same night, 1:18 a.m. Elon was reaching for his laptop to shut it down when a small voice filled his office. At first, he thought it was a mistake. Maybe the smart speaker was playing some random audio file. He moved toward the bookshelf to turn off the device. Then he heard the words clearly. Dear God, it's me, Saxon. I need to talk to you about my daddy. Elon's hand froze in midair. His heart stopped beating for a second. That was Saxon's voice. His little boy was praying, and somehow the house speakers were carrying every word to his office. My daddy is really sad lately. The laptop slipped from Elon's other hand and clattered onto his desk. He stood perfectly still, afraid that moving might somehow break this connection to his son's heart. He doesn't smile anymore like he used to. Each word hit Elon like a physical blow. Saxon had noticed. This 4-year-old child had been watching his father struggle and had been carrying that worry in his small heart. Elon sank into his leather chair, his legs suddenly weak. When had he become so transparent? When had his pain become visible to a child who should be thinking about toys and cartoons, not his daddy's problems? He used to laugh when we played with rockets. He used to make funny voices when he read me stories. Memories flooded back. Last month, reading Good Night Moon, with different voices for each character. Saxon giggling until his stomach hurt. Building elaborate rocket ships out of couch cushions and pretending to blast off to Jupiter. When was the last time they had done that? When was the last time Elon had been fully present during their playtime, not thinking about board meetings or stock prices? Now he just looks at his computer all the time. The truth of those words cut deep. Even during their weekend visits, Elon had been distracted, checking emails during breakfast, taking urgent calls during their walks. He had been physically present but emotionally absent. I think maybe people are being mean to him. Elon's eyes filled with tears. Saxon didn't understand quarterly reports or investor confidence, but he understood that his daddy was being hurt by other people. This innocent child was trying to make sense of grown-up cruelty. I know my daddy wants to help people go to space. He told me that someday, kids like me might live on Mars. Elon remembered that conversation at the SpaceX facility. Saxon's eyes had been so wide with wonder as they walked through the rocket assembly area. The little boy had asked endless questions about space travel, about Mars, about whether aliens were real. That sounds really cool. But I think Daddy forgot something important. What had he forgotten? Elon leaned forward, hanging on every word from his son's prayer. He forgot that I don't need him to take me to Mars to be the best daddy ever. The words hit Elon like lightning. All this time, he had been working himself to death trying to build a future for humanity among the stars. He had convinced himself that reaching Mars would be his greatest gift to his children. But Saxon didn't care about Mars. Saxon just wanted his daddy. I just want him to be happy here with me. Elon's vision blurred as tears rolled down his cheeks. When had happiness become so complicated? When had joy required rockets and stock prices and board approval? Saxon was offering him something much simpler and much more valuable: unconditional love. When we play with my toy rockets, I pretend we're flying to space together. But really, my favorite part is just being with Daddy. Elon pressed his hands against his face, trying to hold back the sobs that wanted to escape. This beautiful child loved him not for what he built or achieved, but simply for being present. And Elon had been failing at the most basic part of fatherhood, being there. God, I think my daddy works too hard. He wants to save the whole world, but maybe he doesn't know that he already saved my world just by being my daddy. Those words shattered something inside Elon's chest. He had been so focused on saving humanity's future that he had neglected to protect his son's present. Saxon's world wasn't Tesla or SpaceX or Mars. Saxon's world was daddy. Please help my daddy remember that he's already my hero. Elon doubled over in his chair, overwhelmed by the purity of his son's love. No conditions, no requirements, no need to prove worthiness through achievements or success. Saxon loved him completely, just as he was. Even if his rockets don't work sometimes. Even if people are mean to him on the internet. Even if those number things on his computer aren't the right numbers. Saxon had been listening more carefully than Elon realized. The child didn't understand business metrics, but he understood that these things were making his daddy sad. And in his innocent wisdom, Saxon was declaring that none of it mattered. I heard daddy crying on the phone yesterday. Elon's stomach clenched. He thought he had been careful to hide his emotions from Saxon. But children see everything. They feel the tension in the air, the sadness in voices, the worry in hugs that end too quickly. Daddies aren't supposed to cry, but I think sometimes they need to. Permission. This 4-year-old was giving his father permission to be human, to be vulnerable, to break down when life became too heavy. Saxon understood something that Elon had forgotten. It was okay to not be strong all the time. Could you maybe send daddy a sign that everything will be okay? Elon looked around his office through tear-blurred eyes. The glowing computer screens, showing bad news. The papers scattered across his desk showing financial problems. The phone that had been buzzing all day with criticism and complaints. But none of that mattered now. The sign Saxon had asked for was happening right now. In this moment, through these words carried by technology that connected a father to his son's heart. Could you help him remember that even if he never builds a rocket that goes to Mars, he's still the most important person in my whole life? Elon slid out of his chair and onto the floor, his back against the desk. The tears came freely now, deep sobs that seemed to come from somewhere he had buried long ago. All the pressure, all the fear, all the desperate need to prove himself. Worthy, it all poured out. Could you tell my daddy that I don't need him to be perfect? I just need him to be my daddy. Perfect. Elon had been trying to be perfect for so long. Perfect CEO, perfect innovator, perfect visionary. But Saxon didn't need perfection. Saxon needed presence. Could you tell him that when he hugs me, it feels like the safest place in the universe? Better than any spaceship or rocket or Mars house. Elon's sobs turned into something between crying and laughing. Here he was, trying to build humanity's safest backup plan on Mars, while his son already felt completely safe in his father's arms. The answer to everything had been right there all along. Could you help daddy sleep tonight? He needs to rest so tomorrow we can play rockets together. Real playing, not the worried kind of playing where his mind is somewhere else. Even Saxon's requests were about giving, not receiving. He wanted his daddy to rest not for Saxon's benefit, but because he could see that his father was exhausted. This child's heart was pure love. Thank you for listening, God. I think you and daddy would be good friends if you ever met. You both care about taking care of people. As Saxon's prayer ended, Elon sat on his office floor in complete silence. The computer screens still glowed. The phone still buzzed with messages. The problems that had seemed so overwhelming 20 minutes ago were still there, but everything had changed. For the first time in months, Elon felt peace. Not because his problems were solved, but because he remembered what actually mattered. Not Tesla's stock price, not the board's confidence, not even reaching Mars. What mattered was upstairs in Spider-Man pajamas, loving his daddy unconditionally. What mattered was being the kind of father who deserved that love. What mattered was tomorrow's rocket playtime and real hugs and bedtime stories with funny voices. Elon wiped his face and stood up slowly. He had some apologizing to do. He had some playing to catch up on. He had a little boy to tuck in and tell him that everything was going to be okay. Because suddenly, for the first time in months, Elon believed it really would be. Same night, 1:35 a.m. Elon wiped his face with his shirt sleeve and stood up slowly. His legs felt shaky, like he had just finished running a marathon. But for the first time in weeks, his heart felt light Instead of heavy that he walked to the office door and turned off the lights. The computer screens went dark. The endless emails and stock reports could wait until tomorrow. Tonight belonged to something more important. Elon climbed the stairs to Saxon's room. He could hear soft sounds coming from behind the bedroom door. Maybe Saxon was still awake, playing quietly with his toys. Usually Elon would worry about bedtime schedules and making sure Saxon got enough sleep for preschool. Tonight, he didn't care about schedules. Elon pushed open the door gently. The rocket-shaped night light cast a soft glow across the room. Saxon was sitting up in his race car bed, holding the framed photo of their SpaceX visit. "Daddy," Saxon said, looking surprised. "I thought you were working." "I finished working for tonight," Elon said, walking over to sit on the edge of the bed. "I heard you talking." Saxon's eyes got wide. "You did?" "I was praying really quietly." The smart speaker was on downstairs. It picked up your voice and played it through the house speakers. Saxon looked confused for a moment, then worried. Am I in trouble? Mommy says I'm supposed to sleep at bedtime." Elon's heart broke a little more. Even after pouring his heart out in prayer for his daddy, Saxon was worried about getting in trouble for being awake. "No, buddy, you're not in trouble. I'm glad I heard you." Saxon set the photo back on his nightstand and looked at his daddy's face. "Your eyes look red. Were you crying?" Elon had always tried to hide his emotions from his children. He thought being strong meant never showing weakness. But Saxon's prayer had taught him something new about strength. "Yes, I was crying," Elon said honestly. "But they were good tears." Good tears. Sometimes people cry when they're sad. But sometimes they cry when they feel so much love that their heart can't hold it all. Saxon thought about this seriously. "Like when I cry during happy parts of movies?" Exactly like that. Saxon scooted over in his bed and patted the space next to him. "Do you want to lie down with me, Daddy? Sometimes when I have big feelings, snuggling helps." Elon almost laughed through his tears. This 4-year-old was taking care of him, offering comfort when Elon should be the one doing the comforting. But he climbed into the little race car bed anyway, careful not to squish Saxon's stuffed rocket ship. "Saxon, I need to tell you something important," Elon said as they lay side by side, looking up at the model rockets hanging from the ceiling. "Okay, I heard everything you said in your prayer. About me being sad. About me working too much. About you wanting me to be happy." Saxon turned on his side to look at his daddy. "I didn't mean to spy on you or anything. I just noticed you seemed worried a lot. You weren't spying. You were being a good son. You were caring about someone you love. I do love you, Daddy. More than all the rockets in the whole world." Those words hit Elon like a warm wave. "I love you too, Saxon. More than Mars, more than space, more than anything." "Really? Even more than Tesla?" Elon laughed for the first time in weeks. A real laugh, not the fake ones he had been forcing during phone calls and meetings. "Way more than Tesla. You know what I realized tonight when I heard your prayer?" "What?" "I've been so busy trying to build a better future that I forgot to enjoy right now. I've been so worried about getting to Mars that I forgot the most important person in my world was right here on Earth." Saxon smiled. "That's me, right? I'm the most important person. You and your brothers and sister. All of you. You're more important than any company or rocket or planet." Saxon wiggled closer to his daddy. "Can I tell you a secret?" "Of course. I don't really care if we ever go to Mars. I mean, it sounds cool and everything. But I just want to have adventures with you right here. Like building blanket forts and making rocket pancakes and reading stories together." Elon felt his throat get tight again. "We're going to do all those things. Tomorrow, we're going to have the best adventure day ever." "What kind of adventure?" "Whatever kind you want. We could build the biggest blanket fort in Texas. We could make pancakes shaped like every planet in the solar system. We could have a movie marathon and eat popcorn for breakfast." Saxon's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. "Can we really eat popcorn for breakfast?" "Just this once. Because this is a special day." "What makes it special?" Elon thought about how to explain it in words a 4-year-old would understand. "It's the day Daddy remembered what's really important. It's the day I stopped worrying so much about work and started thinking more about being your daddy." Saxon was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he said something that made Elon's heart skip a beat. "Daddy, are you going to be okay now? With all the work stuff that makes you sad?" How could he explain to a 4-year-old that the business problems were still there? That Tesla's stock was still down and the board still didn't trust him and NASA was still questioning the Mars mission? But somehow, those problems felt smaller now. Not because they had been solved, but because Elon remembered who he was fighting for. Not for investors or board members or even humanity in general. He was fighting for Saxon and his other children. For their future, their dreams, their right to inherit a better world. You know what, buddy? I think everything is going to be okay. Because I remembered something really important tonight. What did you remember? I remembered that being your daddy is the most important job I'll ever have. Even more important than being the CEO of Tesla or SpaceX. Saxon snuggled closer to his daddy's chest. I'm glad you remembered. I was getting worried about you. You don't have to worry about me anymore. From now on, I'm going to make sure I have plenty of time for rocket adventures and blanket forts and bedtime stories. Will you still work on real rockets? Yes, but I'll remember why I'm building them. Not just to get to Mars, but to inspire kids like you to dream big dreams and believe that anything is possible. Saxon yawned, finally getting sleepy. Daddy. Yeah, buddy. Thank you for listening to my prayer. I wasn't sure if it would work. Elon kissed the top of Saxon's head. It worked better than any rocket I've ever built. As Saxon drifted off to sleep in his daddy's arms, Elon stared at the ceiling and thought about tomorrow. He would still have to deal with the Tesla board. He would still have to face the NASA meeting. The business problems hadn't magically disappeared, but he would face them differently now. Not as a man desperate to prove his worth, but as a father, protecting his children's future. Not as someone afraid of failure, but as someone who had already succeeded at the thing that mattered most. He had Saxon's love. He had his children's trust. He had been given a second chance to be the daddy they deserved, and suddenly, that felt like enough to conquer any challenge the world could throw at him. Next morning, 7:30 a.m. Elon woke up in Saxon's race car bed, with his son curled up against his chest like a small, warm kitten. Sunlight streamed through the rocket-patterned curtains. For the first time in months, Elon had slept deeply without waking up worried about stock prices or board meetings. Saxon opened his eyes and smiled. Morning, Daddy. Did you sleep good? I slept perfectly, Elon said, and he meant it. Ready for our adventure day? Can we really make pancakes shaped like planets? We can make pancakes shaped like anything you want. As they headed downstairs to the kitchen, Elon's phone started buzzing on the counter. Text messages, missed calls, emails marked urgent. Usually, this would send him into panic mode. Today, he turned the phone face down without looking. Aren't you going to check your messages? Saxon asked, climbing onto a kitchen stool. Later. Right now, I'm making breakfast with my favorite astronaut. Saxon giggled. I'm not really an astronaut yet. You're an astronaut in training. That's even better. As Elon mixed pancake batter, he felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Peace in the present moment. No rushing to answer emails. No worried thoughts about the next crisis. Just flour and eggs and his son's laughter. Can you make Saturn with the rings? Saxon asked. Saturn coming right up. Elon poured batter into a circle, then added a thin ring around it. When he flipped it, Saxon clapped his hands. It looks perfect. You're the best pancake chef in the galaxy. The phone buzzed again. Then again. Elon could see the screen lighting up with notifications, but he didn't move to check them. Daddy, you're ignoring your phone. Are you sure that's okay? Elon sat down next to Saxon with their plate of planet pancakes. You know what I learned last night, buddy? What? The most important messages don't come through phones. They come from people who love you. Saxon thought about this while cutting his Saturn pancake. Like my prayer last night. Exactly like your prayer. That was the most important message I've gotten in a long time. After breakfast, they built the biggest blanket fort in the living room using every pillow and sheet in the house. Saxon crawled inside and declared it their secret space station. This is our mission control, Saxon announced, holding his toy rocket. We're going to explore the whole living room galaxy. What's our mission, Captain Saxon? Our mission is to have fun and be happy. No sad computer stuff allowed in our space station. Elon laughed. Best mission ever. They spent the morning flying toy rockets around the house, building cities out of blocks, and reading every space book on Saxon's shelf. Elon did all the character voices, making Saxon laugh until his sides hurt. Around noon, the doorbell rang. Elon looked through the window and saw his brother Kimball standing on the porch, holding a bag of groceries. Uncle Kimball, Saxon yelled, running to open the door. "Hey there, Space Cadet," Kimball said, giving Saxon a big hug. Then he looked at Elon with concerned eyes. "I've been trying to call you all morning. Your assistant Claire called me. She said you missed the NASA meeting." The NASA meeting. Elon had completely forgotten about it. Yesterday, missing that meeting would have felt like the end of the world. Today, it felt like a choice he had made on purpose. "I decided not to go," Elon said simply. Kimball stared at him. "You decided not to go to a $3 billion contract meeting? I had something more important to do. More important than saving SpaceX." Saxon tugged on Kimball's shirt. "Uncle Kimball, look at our space station. Daddy and I built it this morning. We're having an adventure day." Kimball looked at the elaborate blanket fort, then back at Elon. "Can we talk privately?" "Sure." "Saxon, why don't you show Uncle Kimball your rocket collection while I make some coffee?" In the kitchen, Kimball spoke in a low voice. "Elon, what's going on? You look different. Calmer, but also, I don't know, like you've made some kind of decision." "I have made a decision," Elon said, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. "I've decided to remember what actually matters. The NASA contract matters. Tesla's board meeting tomorrow matters. Your companies employ thousands of people, Elon. And I have a son who was worried enough about me to pray for me last night. A son who thinks I work too hard and forget to be happy." Elon told Kimball about Saxon's prayer, about hearing it through the smart speakers, about the complete shift in perspective that had happened overnight. "So you're just going to ignore your responsibilities?" Kimball asked. "No, I'm going to handle them differently, from a place of strength instead of fear." Elon's phone rang. The caller ID showed Dr. Sarah Chun, Saxon's pediatrician. Elon almost ignored it, but something made him answer. "Mr. Musk, I've been trying to reach you all morning. We have Saxon's test results from last month, the ones we ran when he was having headaches." Elon's stomach dropped. In all the chaos of work problems, he had forgotten about those tests. "What did you find? I need you to come in today. Can you be here in an hour? Is Saxon okay? We'll discuss everything when you get here. Please bring Saxon with you." After hanging up, Elon felt the familiar panic starting to rise in his chest. But then he looked through the kitchen doorway at Saxon, who was showing Kimball how to make rocket sounds. Whatever the doctor had to tell him, they would face it together. As a family, with love instead of fear. "Saxon, buddy," Elon called. "We need to go see Dr. Chun." "Are we in trouble?" Saxon asked. "No, sweetheart. She just wants to talk to us about those tests you had." As they drove to the doctor's office, Saxon chatted happily about their morning adventures. Elon held his son's hand and realized something important. No matter what the doctor said, he was ready to handle it because he wasn't facing it alone anymore. He had remembered who he was fighting for, and that made him stronger than any board meeting or stock price ever could. Same day, 2:15 p.m., Dr. Chen's office, the waiting room at Dell Children's Medical Center, smelled like hand sanitizer and crayons. Saxon sat next to Elon, swinging his legs from the chair and coloring a picture of a rocket ship on a piece of paper the nurse had given him. "Daddy, why do doctors' offices always have the same smell?" Saxon asked, not looking up from his drawing. "I think it's to keep all the germs away," Elon said, watching his son color carefully inside the lines. Even here, waiting for unknown news, Saxon remained focused on simple pleasures. "Mr. Musk," a nurse in colorful scrubs appeared in the doorway. "Dr. Chun is ready for you." They walked down a hallway covered with cheerful artwork made by young patients. Pictures of families, rainbows, and smiling animals. Saxon pointed at a drawing of a rocket ship. "Look, Daddy, that kid likes rockets too." Dr. Sarachin's office was warm and comfortable, with stuffed animals on the shelves and children's books scattered on a small table. She was a kind woman in her 40s who had been Saxon's doctor since he was a baby. "Saxon, would you like to sit at the art table while I talk to your daddy?" Dr. Chin asked gently. "Can I draw another rocket?" Saxon asked. "Of course. There are crayons and paper right there." As Saxon settled at the small table, Dr. Chun gestured for Elon to sit in the chair across from her desk. Her face was serious, but not panicked, which Elon took as a good sign. "Mr. Musk, I want to start by saying that Saxon is going to be okay. But we did find something on his brain scans that we need to discuss." Elon's heart started pounding, but he kept his voice calm. "What kind of something?" "Saxon has a small brain tumor. It's what we call a benign tumor, which means it's not cancer." It won't spread to other parts of his body. The world seemed to tilt sideways. Elon gripped the arms of his chair to keep from falling over. A brain tumor? It's located in an area that can cause headaches, which explains why Saxon has been complaining about them lately. The good news is that this type of tumor is very treatable with surgery. Brain surgery on his 4-year-old son. Elon felt like he couldn't breathe. How? How dangerous is the surgery? Any brain surgery has risks, especially in someone so young. But this tumor is in a location that's relatively easy to reach. I've already spoken with the best pediatric neurosurgeon in Texas. Dr. Martinez has done this exact procedure hundreds of times. Elon looked over at Saxon, who was humming while he drew. His little boy had no idea they were talking about operating on his brain. He was just drawing rockets and being happy. Has he been in pain this whole time? Elon asked. Probably some discomfort, yes. But children are remarkably good at adapting to pain. They often don't complain as much as adults would. Suddenly, everything made sense. Saxon's prayer last night. He hadn't asked God to take away his headaches. He hadn't prayed for himself at all. Even while dealing with pain that would make most adults miserable, Saxon had been more worried about his daddy's feelings. When would the surgery need to happen? Elon asked. Soon, within the next 2 weeks. The tumor is small now, but it could grow and cause more serious problems if we wait. Daddy, Saxon's voice came from the art table. Can you help me spell Mars? MRS, Elon said automatically, his mind reeling. Thanks. I'm drawing us flying to Mars together. Dr. Chen watched this exchange with gentle eyes. He's a remarkable little boy, Mr. Musk. Very brave and positive. He is, Elon agreed, his voice thick with emotion. Dr. Chen, I need to ask you something. Last month, when we first brought Saxon in for the headaches, you said the tests were routine. Did you suspect something then? The headaches could have been caused by many things. We always run comprehensive tests to rule out serious causes. I didn't want to worry you unnecessarily until we had clear results. Elon understood, but part of him felt guilty. While he had been obsessing over Tesla stock prices and board meetings, his son had been walking around with a brain tumor. Saxon had been in pain, and Elon had been too distracted to notice how serious it might be. What happens next? Elon asked. We'll schedule the surgery for next week. Saxon will need to stay in the hospital for a few days afterward. The recovery time is usually about 6 weeks, but children heal much faster than adults. Will there be any lasting effects? Dr. Martinez will explain everything in detail, but in most cases like this, children make a complete recovery. No lasting effects on cognitive function or development. Saxon appeared at Elon's side, holding up his drawing. Look, Daddy, it's you and me in a rocket ship going to Mars. See, there's Earth way down there. In the picture, 2 stick figures sat inside a triangle-shaped rocket. One was labeled Daddy, and one was labeled Saxon. Both figures had huge smiles. It's beautiful, buddy, Elon said, taking the picture with shaking hands. Dr. Chen, do you like rockets too? Saxon asked politely. I think rockets are very cool, she replied. Your daddy builds amazing rockets. He's the best rocket builder in the whole world, Saxon said proudly. But he's an even better daddy. Dr. Chen smiled. I can see that. After they scheduled the surgery and received all the paperwork, Elon and Saxon walked slowly to their car. Saxon chatted about the stickers the nurse had given him and asked if they could stop for ice cream on the way home. Saxon, Elon said as he buckled his son into his car seat. Dr. Chen explained that you need to have a small operation to fix your headaches. Are you scared? Saxon thought about this seriously. Will it hurt? Maybe a little. But the doctors will give you medicine so you don't feel it during the operation. And I'll be there with you the whole time. Will you be able to visit me in the hospital? I'll never leave your side. Saxon smiled. Then I'm not scared. As long as you're there, I know everything will be okay. As they drove home, Elon thought about the timing of everything. Last night, Saxon had prayed for his daddy to be happy and to remember what was important. Today, Elon learned that his son needed brain surgery. If this had happened a week ago, Elon would have fallen apart. He would have been consumed with guilt about missing signs, terrified about the risks, overwhelmed by the thought of being responsible for such a big decision. But Saxon's prayer had changed something fundamental. It had reminded Elon that love was stronger than fear. that being present was more important than being perfect, that his son needed a calm, strong daddy, not a panicked, guilty one. "Daddy," Saxon said from his car seat, "can we still build blanket forts while I'm getting better for my operation? We'll build the biggest, most amazing blanket fort hospital room in the history of blanket forts." "Cool. And can we still read rocket stories every night? Then it'll be like an adventure, a healing adventure." Only Saxon could turn brain surgery into an adventure. This brave, loving little boy who worried more about his daddy's happiness than his own health. Elon realized something as they pulled into their driveway. The secret wasn't just that Saxon had a brain tumor. The secret was that this child's capacity for love was so enormous, it could transform any crisis into an opportunity for deeper connection. Tomorrow, Elon would call the Tesla board and explain. That family came first. He would reschedule the NASA meeting. He would reorganize his entire life around being the father Saxon deserved during this difficult time. And somehow, he knew that everything really would be okay. 1 week later, December 22nd, 2024, Dell Children's Medical Center. The pre-surgery waiting room was painted cheerful yellow with clouds on the ceiling, but Elon couldn't stop his hands from shaking. Saxon sat next to him in a tiny hospital gown covered with cartoon rockets, looking remarkably calm for a 4-year-old about to have brain surgery. "Daddy, you look more nervous than me," Saxon said, swinging his legs from the chair. "I'm okay, buddy. Just want to make sure everything goes perfectly. Dr. Martinez seems really nice. And she said I'll have a cool scar like a real space explorer." The past week had been a whirlwind of preparation. Elon had called an emergency Tesla board meeting to explain that he would be taking leave to care for his son. Some board members had been understanding. Others had been frustrated about the timing. This could hurt the company's stability, Diana Foster had argued during the video call. "My son is having brain surgery," Elon had replied calmly. "The company will survive a few weeks without me micromanaging every decision. My family comes first." James Chun had surprised everyone by supporting Elon's decision. Family medical emergencies are exactly when a CEO should step back. "We'll handle things until you return." Elon had also rescheduled the NASA meeting, explaining the situation to the project director. Instead of being angry about the delay, NASA had been completely understanding and supportive. "Family first," Elon, the director, had said. "We've all been there. The Mars mission will wait for you." Now, sitting in the hospital waiting room, Elon realized something important. The world hadn't ended when he stepped away from work. Tesla stock had actually gone up slightly when investors heard about the family situation and Elon's decision to prioritize his son. People respected leaders who had their priorities straight. Mr. Musk, a nurse in bright blue scrubs, approached them. "It's time to head to the operating room. Saxon, are you ready for your big adventure?" "I'm ready," Saxon said, hopping down from his chair. "Daddy, you promised to walk with me as far as you can. I'll be right next to you until they won't let me go any further," Elon promised. As they walked down the hallway, Saxon held Elon's hand tightly. Other families sat in waiting areas, dealing with their own medical challenges. Elon realized that hospitals were full of people learning the same lesson he had learned, that love was more important than any career achievement. Outside the operating room doors, Dr. Martinez knelt down to Saxon's level. She was a kind woman, with gentle eyes, who had spent an hour the day before explaining the procedure to Saxon using pictures and toy models. "Okay, Saxon, remember what we talked about? You're going to take a little nap, and when you wake up, your headaches will be all gone. And I'll have a cool scar. The coolest scar. All the best astronauts have scars from their adventures." Saxon hugged his daddy tight. "I love you, Daddy. Don't worry while I'm sleeping, okay? I love you too, buddy. More than all the stars in the universe. Even more than Mars. Way more than Mars." As the medical team wheeled Saxon into the operating room, he waved at Elon through the little window in the door until he disappeared around a corner. Elon stood alone in the hallway for a moment, feeling overwhelmed by love and fear in equal measure. Then he walked to the family waiting area, where Kimball and May were waiting for him. "How's our brave little astronaut?" May asked, giving Elon a hug. "Braver than his daddy," Elon admitted. The surgery was scheduled to take 4 hours. Elon tried to read, tried to check emails, tried to do anything to distract himself. Nothing worked. All he could think about was Saxon's small body on that operating table. Tell me about Saxon's prayer again, May said during the second hour. The one you heard through the speakers. Elon shared the story again, about hearing Saxon pray for his daddy's happiness while dealing with his own pain. As he talked, he realized something profound. Saxon taught me that love isn't something you earn through achievements, Elon said. It's something you give and receive just for being human. I spent years trying to prove I was worthy of love by building companies and rockets. But Saxon loved me unconditionally, even when I was failing at everything. That's what children do, May said gently. They love purely, without conditions. Adults make love complicated. Children keep it simple. During the third hour, Elon's phone buzzed with messages from around the world. News of Saxon's surgery had somehow leaked, and people were sending prayers and support from every continent. A message from a Tesla employee in Shanghai. Our whole factory is thinking of Saxon today. A note from a SpaceX engineer in California. The rocket that takes humans to Mars should be named after your brave little boy. Messages from competitors, journalists, even people who had criticized Elon in the past. Everyone understood that some things transcended business rivalries and professional disagreements. Point one message made Elon cry. It was from a group of children at a school in Kenya who had drawn pictures of Saxon in a rocket ship. The teacher had written, "These children learned about Saxon's surgery on the news. They wanted him to know that kids all over the world are cheering for him. Look at this." Elon showed the pictures to Kimball and May. Saxon has no idea that children around the world are thinking about him today. He will when he wakes up, Kimball said. We'll show him every single drawing. Finally, after 4.5 hours, Dr. Martinez appeared in the waiting room. She was smiling, which made Elon's heart leap. The surgery went perfectly, she announced. We removed the entire tumor with no complications. Saxon should make a complete recovery. Elon hugged his mother and brother, tears streaming down his face. When can I see him? He's waking up now. You can go in as soon as he's alert. 20 minutes later, Elon sat beside Saxon's hospital bed, holding his son's small hand. Saxon's head was wrapped in white bandages, but his eyes were bright and alert. Hi, Daddy, Saxon said groggily. Did I miss anything exciting? Just the whole world sending you get well messages, Elon said, showing Saxon his phone full of notifications. Really? The whole world? Kids from Africa drew you pictures. SpaceX engineers want to name a rocket after you. Even people who don't like Daddy very much sent prayers for you. Saxon smiled weakly. That's because everyone loves brave astronauts. You're the bravest astronaut I know. Over the next few days, as Saxon recovered in the hospital, something beautiful happened. Elon didn't think about Tesla stock prices or board meetings or Mars missions. He read stories, played quiet games, and simply enjoyed being present with his son. That on Christmas morning, Saxon was well enough to go home. As they drove through Austin, Saxon pointed out all the Christmas lights and decorations. Daddy, this was the best Christmas ever, Saxon said. Even though you had to spend it in the hospital, especially because of that. I got to spend every day with you. No computers, no phone calls, no meetings. Just Daddy and Saxon time. Elon realized Saxon was right. The past week had been terrible and wonderful at the same time. Terrible because of the fear and surgery. Wonderful because it had forced Elon to remember what mattered most. 6 months later, Saxon's scar had healed into a thin line that he proudly showed to anyone who would look. This is my astronaut scar, he would say. I got it on an adventure. With my daddy. SpaceX successfully launched its first crewed mission to Mars that spring. But on launch day, Elon wasn't at mission control. He was at Saxon's kindergarten graduation, watching his son receive an award for most helpful friend. As the rocket carried astronauts toward Mars, Elon held Saxon's hand and realized something important. He had spent years trying to get humanity to Mars because he thought that would be his greatest achievement. But his greatest achievement was much simpler and much more profound. It was being Saxon's daddy. It was being present for bedtime prayers and kindergarten graduations and quiet hospital moments. It was learning that love wasn't something you earned through grand gestures or world-changing inventions. Love was something you shared through ordinary moments made extraordinary by attention and presence. That night, as Elon tucked Saxon into bed, his son said, "Daddy, I'm proud of you for sending people to Mars. Thanks, buddy. But you know what I'm most proud of? What? That you taught me the most important lesson anyone ever taught me. What lesson? That love is the only rocket that can really take us anywhere that matters. Saxon giggled and closed his eyes. I love you to Mars and back, Daddy. I love you to every star in the universe, buddy. And I always will. As Elon turned off the light, he thought about the prayer that had changed everything. Saxon hadn't asked God to make his daddy successful or famous or rich. He had asked God to make his daddy happy. And through the love of a 4-year-old boy with a brave heart and an astronaut scar, that prayer had been answered in ways Elon never could have imagined. The real secret wasn't about business success or space exploration or changing the world. The real secret was that sometimes the greatest journeys happen not among the stars, but in the quiet moments between a father and son who love each other unconditionally. And sometimes, the most important mission of all is simply being there. For the people who matter most. That was the end of this incredible journey about love, family, and what truly matters in life. Where are you listening from right now? Drop your location in the comments below. We love hearing from our amazing community around the world. If this touched your heart like it touched ours, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for many more inspiring and thought-provoking videos just like this one. And here's something special you can do today. Share this video with your friends and family. Sometimes the people we love most need to be reminded that they're already enough, just as they are. Let's spread kindness and awareness together, one share at a time. Thank you for being part of our community. We'll see you in the next video.